Blood has always been a bright line in equestrian sport. A simple, universal rule that if a horse is bleeding, they stop competing. Period. It's one of the few visible, non-negotiable signals that welfare comes before ribbons. But that standard is now under threat. Sport Horse Ireland, the national federation recognized by the FEI, has submitted a proposal to weaken the blood rule in international show jumping. They propose that blood found on the horse will not result in elimination. Instead, it will result in a warning, and if it happens twice in a 12-month period, the disciplinary action is a 1-month suspension and a fine of 1,000 francs, which, if you're curious, is a little over 1,200 US dollars, which I'm sure means a lot to people riding horses that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, training in facilities that are worth tens of millions of dollars, while they ship their horses fairly frequently internationally via airplane. Anyway. In other words, a horse can bleed once, maybe twice, before it really matters. And even then, that's questionable. The reasoning offered by Sport Horse Ireland is frankly concerning. Ireland states that the reason for this rule change is that a horse's flank is not where the spur usually would be.
You sure about that? 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 You sure about that?
And that there are instances in which horses have been cut hitting wings of fences, flags, etc., which has nothing to do with the rider. Now, this might just be me, but it kind of sounds like Ireland is suggesting that show jumpers just kind of sit there and do nothing. But that is exactly why this rule exists. Because when the line blurs between accident and abuse, it's always the horse that pays for it. The FEI General Assembly will vote on this proposal in November 2025. If approved, it would mark one of the most significant stepbacks in equine welfare regulation in over a decade. And it's not even just a paperwork change. It's a shift in the sport's values, signaling that blood, injury, and pain are acceptable side effects of competition. And you're going to get candid Lacey here for a moment. I don't usually do this on this particular style of video, but I feel like it's important. Part of being a horseman, a true, honest-to-God horseman, is eating the fact that sometimes things won't go your way. This is a fundamental truth when you first start riding. These riders, owners, and trainers at this point and this experience level know by now that that is just a fact of life with horses. If that's something you can't deal with, then you need to go find another sport. And as someone involved with horses, it is embarrassing that someone would support this change. I could not imagine trying to rationalize this to another equestrian, let alone the rest of the world. So let's talk about what's really being proposed, who's supporting it, and what that means for horses, and what you can do about it. Now, you'll see here, I have to search 259, because frankly, this format that they work off of is kind of a mess, in my opinion. But you'll see here, proposal from National Federation, Stakeholder, or FEI. IRL, NF. That is Ireland, National Federation, i.e. Sport Horse Ireland. Article numbers that it involves is eliminations, which is 241. The reason is the horse's flank is not where the spur would usually be. We have had instances where horses have been cut by hitting wings of fences, flags, etc., which has nothing to do with the rider. Then why are your horses wearing bridles, is my first immediate thought. And why are your riders wearing spurs? Like, this logically does not make sense to me. In cases where the officials consider blood on a horse to be minor and result in natural causes, example, where a horse appears to have bitten its tongue or lip in a minor manner or has been bitten by an insect, the officials may authorize a rinsing or wiping of the blood and allow the athlete-horse combination to continue. However, the officials may eliminate the athlete-horse combination if the bleeding persists or if the officials have any concerns regarding horse welfare. The athlete will not receive a jumping record warning if this article applies. Any minor blood on the horse will result in the following sanctions. First offense, jumping recorded warning. So basically you get written up at your job. Second offense, jumping recorded warning. Should the same person responsible receive 2 or more jumping recorded warnings at the same or any other event within 12 months of the delivery of the first jumping recorded warning, the person responsible shall be issued a fine of CHF $1,000. And be automatically suspended for a period of 1 month. Such suspension to commence on the day after the last day of the event where the second jumping recorded warning was issued. The FEI Secretary General shall notify the person responsible and confirm the date of suspension. For the avoidance of doubt, the delivery of the notification from the Secretary General after the start date of the suspension shall in no way invalidate or postpone the commencement of the suspension. Any blood on the horse that the officials do not consider to be minor will result in elimination or disqualification and may also result in a separate disciplinary proceeding for abuse of the horse. Germany's National Federation comments, in general, we welcome the idea of the jumping recorded warning, but the determination between minor and more than minor blood could lead to different results in between events and officials. How could it be defined so that there is equal handling of the cases? I can't remember right offhand, but I think this is International Jump Riders Club. I'll correct it on screen if it's not. The IJRC welcomes the revised approach introduced in Article 259 as a more proportionate and fair solution to a sensitive issue that directly affects the image and values of equestrian sport, considering the welfare of the horse, which must always remain top priority. I don't see how you can be an advocate of this change and also say that horse welfare is the top priority. I don't think that lines up. The IJRC asks that the decision on whether the bleeding is minor be made by a veterinarian, as this is the most critical element in ensuring both fairness and horse welfare. The IJRC also supports the implementation of a 1-month suspension in cases of repeated warnings, as it helps differentiate between isolated incidents and patterns of negligence. Given the severity of such a sanction, a careful analysis and consideration of its consequences should be required. However, to further improve clarity, consistency, and transparency, the IJRC recommends the following additions and clarifications. Terms such as minor and natural causes remain open and suggestive to interpretation. Clear criteria or practical examples should be included to guide officials' assessment. The involvement of the veterinary delegate should be explicitly stated in doubtful or borderline cases to ensure objective judgment. And then they go on and make additions and things like that. That's what all the red text is everything they've changed from what the FEI originally put in from Ireland's proposal. FEI basically says, yep, we recorded it, we rewrote it, here it is again. This is from the IJRC again. Nowadays, all eliminations appear to be a welfare issue or horse abuse with catastrophic consequences for the image of our sport. I can't imagine why that is. For this reason, we kindly ask you to consider that when there is visible trace to the naked eye of blood on the flank of the horse, if it is provoked by an inappropriate act, intending by inappropriate act an excessive use of the spurs, causing the bleeding. If the bleeding remains after wiping, a vet must decree the immediate disqualification of the pair, only if the bleeding is still visible to the naked eye. For this reason, microlesion, which does not cause suffering to the horse, or a micromark, cannot be considered at the same time and the same way as a lesion caused by excessive use of spurs or horse abuse. I have a problem with this specifically because there are a lot of vets who just will not look at something for what it is, or they'll just plain miss it. I mean, vets supposedly didn't even find these spur wounds on Helga Strand's horse after he showed it in an FEI show, so I'm not sure why we should be trusting veterinarians to always do the right thing here either. And they basically go on to say that veterinarians need to understand what all these different things are. The USA National Federation, of course, disappointingly supports the need for flexibility as it relates to Article 241.3.30, as there are various levels of severity of the infraction, and these should be addressed based on the severity or lack of severity. Because, of course, the US supports it. Why wouldn't they? Then Sweden comes in and they cite all of these different rules And they say there are no obvious differences in the rules regarding horse abuse, blood on the horse, and penalties between the Olympic disciplines, dressage, jumping, and eventing, as well as in the general regulations. The above mentioned rules are dealing with the same issue, but in different ways. So I'm kind of reading that as them just being tired of reading everyone else's stuff and just being like, we already have rules for this. What do you mean? I think there's one more. Ah, yes, the Pan America and Brazil. They work together and they say the current blood rule lacks differentiation between horse abuse, accidental injuries, and minor lesions, leading to inconsistencies in penalties. The proposed equine assessment rule aims to harmonize penalties with the principles of fairness and horse welfare by allowing vets to assess the severity, introducing a 3-strike system. Gradual consequences will be applied based on the frequency and severity of violations. I also don't think that's going to work. 6, ensuring proportionality in sanctions. A small superficial mark should not be penalized as severely as a significant lesion or an abuse-related injury. Violations will be tracked across an athlete's career to ensure accountability. That also usually doesn't work very well with the FEI, but we're not going to get into that right now. Cases of potential rule violations will continue to follow FEI established stewarding procedures. Annex, that is 16. This revised equine assessment rule ensures fair and proportionate penalty systems while maintaining horse welfare as a top priority. It aligns with the jumping rules with ethical sportsmanship and the public perception while upholding the principles of equine welfare and fairness. Y'all are literally talking about letting a horse bleed and compete. If you are playing with the idea of letting a horse bleed during competition, sportsmanship is gone. Like, it's out of here. It does not exist. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and link this PDF in the description. And you can read it yourself. It's a hot mess. It's a bit disappointing. Again, this only concerns FEI jumping so far, which is going to be international show jumping. If you want to do something and you're like, who do I get in contact with? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some emails on the screen. You can primarily you need to contact FEI, and you also need to figure out who your national federation is. It's pretty easy to find, especially if you just Google like your country's name and FEI. And it'll usually pop right up, and they'll have emails and everything. There's also a different way. Shelby Dennis set this up. I'm going to link that below where you can just plug in some information and it sends an automated email, or sorry, a pre-written email to whoever you need to send it to. And that makes it easy if you don't know what the heck to say. But honestly, just being like, hey, I'm this person. I live in this country. You can say whatever you want. Just say, I do not support the blood rule change, Article 259. And that pretty much gets your point across. So that's pretty much all we've got. This is just a mess. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. Well, Ireland clearly thought this was a good idea, and then a whole bunch of other federations jumped on board too. So that's a little concerning to me. That's a little concerning. And funnily enough, like, I have no horse in the FEI race, so I might as well yap about it, because, well, what are they going to do to me about it? Can't do nothing. Can't do nothing to me, FEI. I don't pay you.
King Kong ain't got shit on me!
But they are set to vote on this in November 2025. I'm going to try to have this up by October 24th. We'll see how that goes. And at the latest, October 25th. So you have a little bit of time, but not a lot. So you really need to get your opinions out there. You need to send your emails, make a little bit of good trouble about it, okay? I will see y'all next time for an actual expose. I think you're going to like it. It's kind of in the same vein. See, did I give you a hint? It's just a little prancier. All right. Y'all have a good rest of your night. Thank you so much for the love and support. I love y'all. Adios.